Now, hello everyone, and welcome to the Breakdown After Dark. I'm your host, Casey Smith, joined as always by my two co-hosts, Keenan Vaughn and Aidan Dobell. And for once, I don't want to jinx it because we've been here a couple times where it's been like this. I think I have actually started the stream on time and I actually got it up and running. All it took was us getting back. And yeah, I can see it pop up on my little monitor, so we're good. There's like a 30-second delay, so I always kind of blabber on at the beginning of the show just to see if we're actually live. But anyways, we are live. We had spring break last week, so no show. But we're back, and we have so much to talk about with the bracket being released. We'll touch up on a little bit of NBA news, some World Baseball Classic news. But let's be honest, everyone. You're here because you want the perfect bracket. And we have the answers. You don't even have to watch March Madness if you really don't want to, because you're going to know how. I mean, we'll only give you the first round, so you have to figure it out from there. But we'll give you everything you need to know to have the perfect bracket and win the $1 billion. Aidan and I were talking about this earlier. Are you aware, Keenan, who gets the billion? Who gives the $1 billion?
I believe it is Mr. Warren Buffett.
It is Mr. Warren Buffett, but also Kalshi is going to be giving out $1 billion. So if you were to win, you would get $1 billion from Kalshi and Warren Buffett. So you'd be a $2 billionaire, and yeah, that would be pretty sick. But outside of us winning the $1 billion and figuring out how we're going to split it, how are you guys doing today?
I'm doing great. March Madness is officially upon us. We have our first games tomorrow, which SMU Miami Ohio is going to be awesome. Or that's Wednesday, sorry. But either way, first games tomorrow. I could not be more excited.
This is my favorite time of year. I'm really not sure what other time in the sports calendar trumps March Madness. It's close for me. This is what I live for. I can't wait till it's Thursday.
Yeah, I'm excited for Thursday. I'm excited for I'm just excited, man. Like, I love the tournament. We've been talking about it for a while now. I'm excited to go over the bracket. And, you know, spring break was great. What were you guys up to for spring break?
Let's see. Went out to lovely Santa Monica, visited my brother for a couple days, and then I was just back home in Chicago, where it was snowing like a couple days ago, which middle of March snowing is nuts, but that's Chicago.
Yeah. Keenan? What were you up to?
I flew back home to Houston, where it was insanely hot, and then later down the week, my mom and I took a road trip to Dallas, Arlington, and Fort Worth, where it was insanely cold.
Okay. I mean, wait, in Dallas?
Dallas gets super cold, man, especially during winter, and I know it's still it's mid-March now, but it was super windy there.
Yeah. Well, it was all hot and sunny out in San Diego. My girlfriend and I went out there. It was a great time. Beach, hike, zoo. I love the zoo. I love the zoo so much. San Diego Zoo is so awesome. We just saw incredible stuff. It was a great trip. I wanted to ask you guys before we get started with the March stuff for the intro question, as we usually kind of do. What would be your Hunger Games strategy, and how do you think you would fare personally? So if you're not familiar with the Hunger Games, I think most of us are, but you get selected, but you're not just thrown in there. You do get a little bit of time to train. Let's just assume you have an average mentor, and I think it's a month, right? It's a significant. You get a little bit of time to train. I don't think you're just thrown right in there. So how are you going to survive? And be honest, how do you think you would do?
I'm getting taken out early, but I'm getting taken out
First
quick.
round out.
But no, I'm being smart enough to not run into the feeding frenzy that's the cornucopia when everybody grabs their weapons. The second that buzzer goes off, I'm sprinting into the woods, and I'm finding a place to kind of lay low, hide a little bit. Maybe I maybe I make a little like weapon out of a stick or something that can
What?
defend myself with. I'm not grabbing a weapon from the cornucopia, so
What do you?
I'm
What do you?
pray that I can. I'm gonna pray that I can glaze the sponsors enough, and they'll send me something good.
What do you? What do
But
you mean? Make a weapon out of a stick? You just
sharpen the end of a stick into a nice little spear,
okay.
and that'll be
What?
my weapon.
What are you sharpening it with?
A rock.
Or it's okay. Okay. Um, Aiden walking around with a wooden spear while people for real got like bow and arrows and swords and
and like swords and
like real.
like spears. Like you know what? I'm basically like bush camping like in Fortnite, just waiting until
Okay.
the whole lobby gets killed, and then
Okay.
I'll come out.
Okay. Interesting stuff. What about you, Keenan?
Honestly, my answer is not too far off from that. I would definitely not make a weapon out of a stick because I would be dead. But I would definitely, yeah, I would definitely camp the entire time. I'm the exact same way, Aiden in Fortnite. I will just grab as much supplies and weapons as possible, and then just wait for everyone else to kill each other. And then if there's like two or like one person left, I like my chances there. But I don't know. I wouldn't be like the one thing I wouldn't do is trust people. Like I know Katniss trusted like Rue in the Hunger Games. Like, nah, bro. I'm not there to make friends. I'm there to survive.
Um, I think the thing I would struggle with the most, outside of the killing people and whatnot, would be that survival aspect. Like I think a lot of people kind of skim past that. I don't know how I'm gonna get food. To be honest, I don't know how I'm gonna get water and survive. I mean, I'm a pretty outdoorsy person, but this isn't even just the outdoors. It's like a man-made arena and whatnot. So I think I just get hungry and kind of cranky and bored, and I would probably not fare too well either. I think I got a decent like lay of the land type. Like I'm pretty outdoorsy. Like I can survive better than most in that regard, and like I'm decently physically fit. But I just think I'd get bored. Like I don't think I could bush camp. I just think I would. I don't think I could just sit around for like 7 days with nothing but my thoughts. I think I'd go crazy.
I mean probably, but I will say in that month leading up to the games, I'm finding a way to glaze the people in the Capitol, the sponsors, so
Yeah.
that they'll send me stuff and keep me alive.
I'm gonna be the
Like,
biggest bootlicker there is, man.
Oh, I'm gonna be the most liked competitor in that whole field.
Because in this like scenario, what the sponsors would be like, because if it's real life, the sponsors would be like Elon
Coke
Musk
or
and like
McDonald's. Yeah,
like,
Tesla.
and Zuckerberg and whatnot. I'd be like, man, you know what? I think that whole X rebrand, that was pretty smart, dude. I know everyone still calls it Twitter and all, but you really cooked with that, big bro. I'd be saying stuff like that.
I'd be like, you know what, Mark Zuckerberg, I think you could be a UFC champion. I've been seeing your training videos. I believe in you, dude.
I watched The Social Network. Wasn't that good, man? It wasn't that good. I didn't like it. It wasn't. No. I'm joking.
Okay,
I'm joking, Keenan. I saw your face. No, that's what I would say to Zuckerberg. Keenan just got really offended that at the idea of me not.
I was about
liking
to say
The Social
we're making this the next opening question.
Anyway, what? How good is The Social Network, or just movies in general? Okay.
Fellas,
Is that?
I gotta break it
Oh
to
my
you.
god!
I've never seen it. Never seen The Social
That's
Network.
okay. We can do a mandated.
I've heard it's great, but I've never seen it.
Breakdown After Dark watch along movie session. I think that could be fire. But let's get into March Madness. Let's get into what we're all really here for, because you want the perfect bracket. You want to win the $1 billion from Kalshi and Warren Buffett, or at least get kind of close. So we're gonna go through every single first round matchup. Second round, Sweet 16, you're on your own for that. But maybe you can get a couple hints from some of the teams we like. And And I'm going to start us off on the East. We're going to go through literally every single matchup, give our thoughts, our picks, go down to the South region. Then we'll do the what would be the next region? I think it's the Midwest.
If we're going left,
No, it's the
right,
West,
or top to
and
bottom, it
then
would be
West
and
and then
then Midwest.
But either way, we'll go through every single matchup and just give our thoughts. I have my bracket pulled up. I've spent a pretty unreasonable amount of time. I've also been posting the seed line videos on TikTok and YouTube, which take a long time with the research and with the it's pretty editing, and like it's a little bit higher editing quality than the other videos I'd be posting. And they've been doing all right, so that's cool. But they're more fun than, they're a lot of work, but they're also fun. So hopefully I don't know if I'll be able to get all 16 seeds out, honestly, by like Thursday morning. I'm thinking I'll get to like 12.
That's still pretty good.
That's still pretty solid. But let's start off in the East region with the 116 Duke Siena. I think this can be pretty brief. I'm assuming we all have Duke.
Yeah,
what's there to say?
There's been 2 16-1 upsets in the history of the March Madness tournament. So it can happen, but I will never pick one. It just doesn't make sense for your bracket.
Yeah, and especially this Duke team, they're the number 1 overall team. They're really, really good. They've lost 2 games. They're really sick. They might be a team that you should maybe pick as your national champion. They're one of the favorites for sure. So we can move on. But you know what? Shout out Siena. Shout out the dogs. I like dog mascots. That's about all I got to say about them. 8-9 though. This is one that a lot of people are probably going to be losing some sleep over. These are some 2 teams that have been playing pretty good basketball lately. And honestly, maybe both a little bit underseeded. Ohio State, TCU. What are we thinking about this one?
This is my favorite 8-9 matchup in the tournament. I was super excited when I saw this one revealed. I made Bruce Thornton one of my players of the week earlier in the season. I love watching him. He's made himself a Ohio State legend. But it's a tough matchup going against Jamie Dixon, one of the most experienced coaches in the tournament in TCU. I think I might roll with Ohio State in this one just because I really like the form that the Buckeyes have been rolling with these last few weeks. Picked up a big win over Purdue not that long ago, and they hung around with Michigan in the Big Ten tournament. They really impressed me there. That's not any knock on TCU. I know they were red hot going into the tournament as well, but I think I like the Buckeyes here.
Yeah, I agree. Keenan, you touch on some of my points, which is that I'm going to side with, I've gone back and forth on this matchup, but I think ultimately I will side with Ohio State, simply because I think they have the best player in this game. Bruce Thornton he's really, really fun to watch. I think he is now the all-time leading scorer in Ohio State history. He'll go down as maybe the best Ohio State player ever. It's finally getting an opportunity to see him in the tournament, and I think he's really going to shine. And it's not a knock on this TCU team at all. I really like this TCU team. I kind of wish that they got a better 8-seed matchup, but I will go with the Buckeyes.
I'm going to give us our first split decision. I'm going with TCU. And yeah, it's no knock on Ohio State. Both these teams have been really hot lately, and they both have been, similar records at 22-11 and 21-12, playing in difficult conferences, the Big Ten and the Big 12. But I look at 2 things for me. First of all, I think the Big 12 slightly better, but that's pretty marginal. But then I look at just how hot TCU has been lately. When you're trending into March, you want to be trending up at the right time. And although Ohio State has been playing better basketball towards the end, I'd say, than the beginning of their season, TCU has been night and day. Of their last, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 games, they've only lost 2. Those being to UCF and Kansas. And they've beaten Iowa State. They've beaten West Virginia, Kansas, Texas Tech, Cincinnati. Those are some really, really solid wins. And a lot of these, 9 against Kansas, 8 against Texas Tech. Like, they've handled teams. I really like the way they're trending right now. I think they are still going to lose in the next round to Duke. But I think they are one of legitimately the most hot teams in the nation right now, and I think that'll continue with them beating Ohio State. But I think Bruce Thornton will be awesome. I mean, this is truly like probably like the 50-50 game.
Yeah.
I low-key might look up like what is the Vegas line on this one. The spread's got to be less than like 30.
I think it's 2.5 right now in favor of Ohio State.
Mm-hmm.
It might go to like 1.5. Like it might basically be like a pick'em for this game.
Yeah. It's a toss-up game. It's an 8-9 for a reason. These are always going to be the most difficult. And it's at 9:15. Love to see it. But continuing down the bracket, we've got St. John's, Northern Iowa. I've seen St. John's as like a trendy, deep end team. I still have them winning this one, but I don't really get the St. John's like ultra love. Am I missing something?
No, I would completely agree with that. I understand, like, the problem is they're so frustrating to watch. This team is simultaneously good enough to crush UConn in the Big East Tournament Championship and then completely embarrass themselves against UConn only a couple of weeks ago. This team is just super confusing, and I feel like a big part of it is I can't get the taste of last year out of my mouth with St. John's. This brand of basketball that Pitino has the Red Storm playing, I just don't know if it's compatible to a deep run in March Madness. I think I will go with the Red Storm here. This could be a lot closer than some people think. Northern Iowa, although they did finish 6th in the standings for the Missouri Valley, they've got some quality wins, and they're currently, I want to say, 72nd in KenPom, which is not terrible. I think this one will be close, but I like Pitino's experience here. I think St. John's gets it done.
Boys, I'm picking the 12-5 upset. I'm going with Northern Iowa in this game. And there's a couple reasons for it. Northern Iowa is the number 1 defense in the country. They allow the fewest points per game of any team.
Well, I don't know. We can say they allow the least points, but I don't know if that means number 1 defense in the country.
It is because they also play the second slowest pace in the country. But I do think that will help them because this St. John's team is, like, if you turn it into a really slow-paced half-court game, that does not favor St. John's, who does not shoot the ball really well. I think where St. John's would have the biggest advantage is just being a bigger, more athletic team than Northern Iowa. But when you slow the game down as much as Northern Iowa does, you can't really look to like run and get those fast break points. So I think this is a really tough draw for St. John's, and there's always, it seems like every year there's a 12-5 matchup, and this is one that I really like. So I will go with Northern Iowa.
Yeah, I mean, they do play incredibly slow, and they still do have a good defense. KenPom has them at 24 for defensive efficiency, which is adjusting for schedule, pace of play, all those things. So they have a legit defense, and they play really slow, and I think they match up well against St. John's. I still don't it'll be a very close game, and I really would not pick St. John's to go far, not only because of how I wouldn't pick St. John's to go far because I'm not even sure they're going to win in the first round. And honestly, going off of that, I think this like 5, 12, 4, 13 bubble area is the hardest to pick. Let's just go over with that one as well, and we can group them together. Kansas, Cal Baptist.
Man, oh man. I mean, like, I don't know what – I understand why people are on the fence about this one. Like, what has Kansas really done recently to inspire confidence that they're going to make a deep run in this tournament? The problem, though, is that I just don't know if I love the draw. Like, for the upset, I don't know if I would pick Cal Baptist. I don't know if they're a team I could put confidence behind. Like, I love Daniels. He was absolutely electric in that tournament championship against Utah Valley. But this Kansas team not only has Darren Peterson, but hopefully we can start getting Bryson Tiller, Trey White, Badunga, Council producing at a more consistent level. I've seen this Kansas team in person lose to Arizona State. I know what their floor is, but I think they're talented enough to at least win one game this tournament.
Yeah, I agree. Listen, I'm a huge Kansas fan. I went on record saying to Casey that I would probably pick whoever Kansas played in the first round to upset them. I can't do it with Cal Baptist. Like this Kansas team has kind of limped into the tournament, but I do still think that they're talented enough, that they're a great defensive team, and they have the massive coaching advantage that is Bill Self. Um, I can't see them losing to Cal Baptist, and then in that case they would play Northern Iowa, and I think that they would win that too. They're going to get smoked in a hypothetical Sweet 16 versus Duke, but I like I can't see them losing to Cal Baptist, even with how good Dominique Daniels is.
Man, I'm surprised that Kansas even got to a 4 seed. I don't know if you guys feel
I
the
kind of
same
am
way.
too.
I will third that.
I remember when we were talking about picking Kansas, I think we were all kind of picking against Kansas in the first round, regardless of who they got. I think we were all kind of under the assumption they'd be a 5 seed. And there's a lot of, good 12 seeds that could have done it. And I agree with the sentiment that Cal Baptist is not the most, favorable draw if you're picking against Kansas. But I still am going to go with CBU. It's not so much to do with Cal Baptist, but it's to do with Kansas, as we talked about. They've got all the talent in the world. They might be one of the 10 most talented teams in the nation. I don't think it's a real stretch to say that. Melvin Council, Badunga, Trey White, Darren Peterson is an incredible top 4 players to have. And they've shown that at times. I mean, certainly they've beaten Arizona, they've beaten Houston, but they've also lost to Arizona State. And I've covered a lot of Arizona State and Cincinnati. And I've covered a lot of Arizona State. And that takes my opinion down of you quite a lot. I think they're truly susceptible to lose or beat any team in the nation. So I'm going to take the any team in the nation, quite frankly. I think, especially when you look at a team like Cal Baptist that closed out their tight conference championship game. I like it a little bit more than what Kansas has done, especially as of recent. How many have they dropped out of the past couple? I mean, let's see.
In their last 10 or so?
They've lost 5 of their last 9.
Yeah,
I don't love that. I don't think they're playing at their peak ball. I think especially under the lights of an NCAA tournament is the, sometimes bad vibes of Kansas going to get better or is it going to get worse? I think it's going to get worse and get exposed. Either way, it truly feels like picking the team to make it to the Sweet 16 out of this 5-12, 4-13, it could be any of the 4. Like St. John's, Northern Iowa, Kansas, Cal Baptist. I could see any of them being in the Sweet 16. That's at least how I feel about it because none of these teams really inspire that much confidence in me. But let's keep going down the bracket to 6-11, Louisville, South Florida.
Yeah, I mean, I know a lot of people were joking around that, the first few games on Thursday will shatter a ton of brackets because you have TCU and Ohio State, and then South Florida and Louisville is the third game. And I love this matchup. This one's really interesting. To me, it comes down to, is Mikael Brown, is his talent alone good enough to elevate Louisville past South Florida? But South Florida's been really hot. I mean, they dominated the American this year. They looked amazing during the tournament. It's really hard for me to side with Louisville on this one. I think this will be the first time that I pick the lower seed. I'm going to go South Florida in this one.
I'm also going to go South Florida. I really like this team. They're coming into the tournament really hot, and I just don't love this Louisville team, quite frankly. They didn't perform great in the ACC tournament. Um, Michael Brown at times this year has been awesome, and at times this year he's been awful and just really inefficient. Um, and there's a little added personal aspect to this. I sent Casey this video, but there was an interview with South Florida's coach, I believe after they won the American Conference or after the selection show. And he saw that Buffalo, New York was where they were going to be playing the game. And he's from New York, and it will be the first time that his father, who struggles with dementia, will get to see him coach in person. So if I needed any more reason to pick South Florida, that added motivation just pushed me over the top. I really like the South Florida team, and I will be picking them to win versus Louisville.
Well, and I think not just Michael Brown being inconsistent, him being healthy at all. He's been injured down the stretch, hasn't played a couple of the last games of the year, and is going to be dealing with that injury in the UCF game. He's not going to be fully healthy, and I think that really worries me with Louisville. This is going to be a really close game in terms of just about every single metric. South Florida is an 11 seed, but they're strong for sure. They've been very solid in the American. They're a well-balanced team, solid offense and defense. They play really, really fast, 15th fastest pace according to Ken Palm. And I think that's going to be enough for them to take out Louisville. I'm always looking at, you don't want to have too much recency bias for sure. But there's certain teams that either are hitting their stride or falling off towards the end of the year, and you want to be picking the teams that are hitting their stride. A November loss is very different than a February loss. It just is. Your team's going to look a bit different. So I'm taking Louisville to get. Yeah, I'm taking USF to pull off the upset on Louisville. And so I guess that's all three of us there. 3:14, Michigan State against the North Dakota Bison.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go with Michigan State here. I kind of made a remark to someone at our WCSN meeting, Casey. I know a lot of people were talking about how tough of a region this was. I don't necessarily disagree, or I don't necessarily agree with that. I think just because there's a lot of blue bloods and big names, I don't think that just makes it a tough regional. Case in point, Michigan State as the 3 seed, I'm not completely sold on them, to be honest. I'm still going to pick them to win this game, but I don't love their prospects of making like a super deep run. I know like they've been a Super Bowl national championship pick, Final Four pick. I could see them maybe getting like USF giving them a run for their money if they make it to the second round.
For sure, yeah. I mean, Michigan State's always going to have a solid defense, and they do again this year, 13th in the nation, and they have a lot of the pieces. They have the facilitation with Jeremy Fears, they have the finishing, they have the shot blocking, they've got size, they have shooters, they have all the stuff. But at times this year, it hasn't shown up. You know what I mean? They've gotten pretty badly beat by Michigan twice now. They lost to Minnesota. They got whooped by Wisconsin by 21. There's just times where it feels like they have all the right pieces, but sometimes they just don't quite fit. And I don't think North Dakota State will be the team to expose them. But could it be USF? Could it be Louisville? Could it be whoever comes out of the bottom end of this bracket? For sure. I think they're maybe even my least favorite 3 seed, looking at the bunch. And especially when, you look at guard play in March. They do have Jeremy Fears. Really awesome passer. But basically a non-shooter, A. And B, he still struggles with the technical stuff. The dirty plays that he's been pulling off all year. And honestly haven't really hurt his team that much. But in March, is it going to? I don't know. I wouldn't want to be banking my bracket on that for sure. Aidan?
Yeah, I don't really have a lot to say about this. I don't love this Michigan State team, but I like Tom Izzo in March. Michigan State is going to be well coached. They're not a great offensive team, but they're always going to be good defensive team. They've got a lot of size. They play hard. They rebound the ball. Um, I can't see North Dakota State being the team that knocks them off. Potentially South Florida does, but um, I maybe not. That's one that's a little tricky, but I think anything past them going to the Sweet 16 is I would say is a mistake. I am not very high on this Michigan State team, but I don't see them losing to the Bison.
Yeah. Well, let's go down to the 7-10 UCLA UCF, and when you're talking about the hottest teams in the country, you absolutely have to mention UCLA. Lost to Purdue in the Big Ten semis. But that was without Donovan Dent for most of the game. And you look at Donovan Dent, he struggled a lot early on in the year. The three-point shot left him, and he just wasn't playing efficient. But as it's gone in from November to December to January, February, he has gotten better and better and better. And towards the end of this season, he has been playing some incredible basketball, passing at an elite level, hitting shots. He has been so much better. And it's led to a ton of wins. They've beaten Michigan State, Rutgers, USC, Nebraska to end the year. They beat USC as well. I think this UCLA team is one of the hotter teams in the nation. But you still do have to, like I said earlier, Donovan Dent got hurt in that Purdue game. Is he going to be fully healthy? Is he going to be here for March Madness is the question. But I think if he is, I'm picking them not only in this game, but maybe to go on a little bit of a run.
Yeah, I'm going to second that. He actually, I think, just did give like a positive update on his availability for the tournament. It sounds like he will be close to fully healthy for this UCF game. And yeah, if he's fully healthy, I'm picking UCLA in this one. And you've talked about how hot UCLA is. A big reason why I'm not picking UCF is they've been the opposite. They looked pretty decent during the regular season. They beat Texas Tech and BYU, but they also lost 4 of their last 5, including some embarrassing losses to Oklahoma State and West Virginia and Baylor. And they almost lost it. They really should have lost to Cincinnati in the Big 12 tournament. It required a miraculous comeback. But I think this team, how they looked against Arizona, that reflects what UCF basketball is. They're a decent team, but not one that inspires a ton of confidence in me to go far.
Yeah, I was actually at the Big Ten semis in person in Chicago. So I got to see this UCLA team in person, and I really like them. I like their guard play. I think Trent Perry, he played outstanding. I think he's one of the more underrated players in the country. I really like their bigs. I will say some injury stuff is concerning. Like Donovan Dent injury is a little concerning, but it seems like he should be okay. But their leading scorer Tyler Bilodeau, I think is how it's pronounced. He was also hurt. He got injured in the Michigan State game, and he only played 10 minutes versus Purdue. But he is expected to play as well. So this is a UCLA team that has been a little banged up and still has been playing at a very high level. I really like this UCLA team, and I do think that they can make a run in this tournament.
Yeah. Well, last matchup here in the region, UConn and Furman. I'm taking UConn.
Yeah, I'm also going to take UConn here. I think this is just one of those where I'm not going to make a bold prediction.
Furman's cool. They're one of the biggest teams in the nation, height-wise. They've been banged up for part of the year. And, maybe if they were able to sneak up to like a 14 seed, I could have seen myself picking them over a 3 maybe. But not against UConn. I still don't love UConn like long term, but it's just a little bit too much of a gap for me to justify in my mind.
Yeah. The one thing I am looking at is like a potential UCLA UConn like second round matchup would be really intriguing. That's when I think that UConn would be in serious trouble of being like an early 2 seed exit.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I have UCLA beating UConn in the second round.
yeah. I have UCLA beating UConn and then beating Michigan State.
I I also have
I don't think that's
I have the same
crazy.
thing. I have the same thing. You're banking a little bit on injury luck there, but I don't think I'm confident in it. Let's move down to the South. Florida is going to play the winner of Prairie View A&M and Lehigh. To put into context how bad
Prairie View
these
is.
Prairie View A&M and Lehigh are 284 and 288 respectively in Ken Palm. They're some of the worst teams like in the nation straight up. Um, Prairie View's a game above 500. Lehigh's 2 games above 500. I'll still watch. It'll be cool. I like watching two random teams fight to get swamped by Florida, but
Oh my, yeah.
um,
Um,
Hey, shout out to Prairie View. I know a ton of people from my hometown that went to Prairie View A&M, so I was just
wow.
happy to see them make the tournament. But yeah, they're gonna get mollywopped.
yeah. I mean, I don't know that there's really a lot to say about this matchup. Florida is probably going to be favored by like 35 points. Like they're going to destroy Prairie View, but or Lehigh, whoever ends up winning that first four matchup, it
Who
doesn't
you
really
got? Who
matter.
you got? Prairie View or Lehigh?
Give me Lehigh. Give me Lehigh.
Oh,
It doesn't really matter, but
I'll take Lehigh
they're
too.
they're fighting for the honor of getting destroyed by Florida.
Which an extra nationally televised game is still a lot of money and a big deal for the university.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
cool for them, but in the grand scheme of the tournament,
Realistically,
not a big deal.
yeah.
Other 8-9 matchup, Clemson, Iowa. What do we think?
Um,
This one's a little bit of a roll of the dice for me, to be honest. On the surface, I feel like I find myself picking Iowa most of the time, just because I think Bennett Sturts is kind of the X factor here, and also just because there's not a lot about Clemson that has wowed me all season long. But I've also seen how erratic Iowa is, especially on the offensive front. This one definitely makes me a little bit nervous. And especially considering that this Clemson team has been pretty underrated in terms of basketball. I know that they did have that embarrassing showing last year, but they did also make the Elite Eight 2 years ago. I think I might go with Clemson here. It's not a tough one for me at all. I'll probably flip flop until Thursday. I'm gonna go Clemson for now.
It feels like
Interesting.
with Ohio State TCU, it was really close because I really like both of those teams. And with Iowa and Clemson, it's like neither of these teams really inspire me. They haven't been that hot as of late. I'm not super jazzed about either of them. Like if you would have flipped like Iowa and I guess TCU, then I would have picked TCU and Ohio State. But I'll take Iowa. I'll take Bennett Sturts. When I'm looking at two teams that I don't love, I'm gonna pick the team with the better best player.
Yeah, I agree. Iowa is another team similar to Northern Iowa that plays very slowly, but they have far and away the best team. You guys said that you kind of struggled picking this matchup. I pretty easily picked Iowa. I just felt like they are just like a pretty clearly the better team than Clemson. I felt that they were maybe even a little underseeded at a 9 seed. I do think that they will win this matchup pretty easily.
I mean, the analytics like Iowa a lot. They're 25th in Ken Palm, which is, a couple spots clear of like North Carolina, who's a 6 seed. But I look at their past couple games and, they've lost
Exactly. There's
like
I'm taking like the sample size from the last few games, and it's just not enough for me. It's just
I
I
mean,
don't I
they're
I
playing
don't
really
see
good
it.
teams like they're losing to Ohio State, Nebraska, Michigan, Purdue. But then they lose to Penn State.
The
Like
Penn State loss was really bad for sure.
um yeah, I don't know. Either of these teams are gonna lose to Florida, but I will take Iowa. That's why I struggle with it. Like they're really not that inspiring as of late. I got to be completely honest. I'll still take Iowa, though. But that takes us down to another 5-12. Very juicy matchups. Vanderbilt-McNeese. I was a little surprised that Vanderbilt was a 5 seed. I thought they were deserving of a 4 over Kansas. Another team that the analytics love. They have a really hot offense behind Tyler Tanner. And I think McNeese is cool, but I think this is one of the 5 seeds that I'm the most confident in. I'm taking Vanderbilt.
Yeah, give me the Commodores. I would argue that I know that they lost the SEC tournament championship, but I don't know if there's a team that really improved, or I guess just really won tournament weekend like Vanderbilt. They showed how great they can really be by not only beating Tennessee, but silencing Florida in the semifinal, which I think speaks a lot about this team's potential in the tournament. The one thing I don't love, and I mentioned this before we went live, is I don't like how they paired Vanderbilt with Florida. They would be, if they did win their first 2 games, they'd be on track to meet in the Sweet 16. Like, on paper, that sounds like a cool rematch. But if Vanderbilt was in a different region, I think I would have them picked as like a serious Final Four contender. But yeah, if we're just picking strictly Vanderbilt versus McNeese, easily give me the Commodores.
Yeah, I'm not falling for the McNeese trap. Like, I know a couple years ago, a lot of people liked them to beat Gonzaga. I was one of those people. I picked them. I'm not doing it again. I really like this Vanderbilt team. Their offense is electric. We saw how they looked versus Florida, who earned a 1 seed. I felt pretty confident in this 5-12 picking Vanderbilt.
Yeah. Well, if we're all picking Vanderbilt, I feel good about that. I actually have Vanderbilt in my Elite 8. I think they'll play Florida again and beat Florida. We've seen them do it once, and I feel nice about it. But that takes us to 4-13. 2 teams that have never won an NCAA tournament game, Troy and Nebraska. Which one is going to win their first NCAA tournament game?
The tournament selection committee knew exactly what they were doing when they put this tournament on paper. Nebraska got one of the toughest 13 seed draws. Man, this one is tough. I really like both of these teams. I've seen Troy good enough to win They won in Viejas, if I'm not mistaken, right, Casey?
They did. Yeah, they won in Viejas.
Sorry, don't mean to open up old wounds, but that just
did.
shows that this team is quality, and Nebraska is one of those teams. I don't think it's undeserved that people are really skeptical of them. I think they're definitely a decent team. They sort of held their own in Big Ten play, but for a team that had the start that they had, going 21-0. There's just not been a lot over the last 2 months that's really wowed me and has made me believe that this team is going to go on a deep run. Man, this one's tough. I think I might go Nebraska just because I think people – and you made a good point with McNeese, Aidan. I think when people are expecting the upset too much, then the other team comes out on top usually.
Yeah, I just feel like – it's got to happen for Nebraska at some point. Like, they got to get their first tournament win. This is probably as good of a chance as they're ever maybe going to have. I don't know that they're going to be higher than a 4 seed anytime soon. I know Troy is very good. We saw them versus a really good team in San Diego State. They have a very good offense. But Nebraska is a good defensive team. I just think they're just the better team, and I do have them beating Troy, but I do think this game will be pretty close.
Give me Troy. Give me Troy. Give me the Troy Trojans. Give me the Troy Trojans. They come out of an incredibly exciting Sun Belt. No, not the Sun Belt. The Fun Belt. Okay, this conference was one of the most exciting to watch towards the end of the year and in the conference tournament. They could have had a 7-way tie for first place in the regular season. Troy came out of all of that. They went to double overtime against USC. They beat San Diego State in Viejas, a very difficult place to play. And Nebraska was great at the start of the year, 20-0. But since then, they've been 6-6. Troy has been much better than 6-6. They've got a pair of guards who can shoot the lights out. They can match up relatively physically with Nebraska, although Nebraska is a lot bigger than Troy. And I think we look at history. Nebraska's lost a lot of tournament games, and I think that's going to continue in this one. I'm taking the Troy Trojans, and then they're going to go get whooped by Vanderbilt. I mean, and
I think no matter who wins that game, they're probably going to lose to Vanderbilt.
And I think a Troy victory spiritually is a San Diego State tournament victory. I think spiritually, I think we can hang the banner.
If that's what you want to tell yourself, sure.
Yeah, it's okay, buddy.
I think we can hang the banner.
I was a little surprised to not see San Diego State in the NIT. Are they in the Crown?
Yeah.
Maybe.
No, they said they will not be playing.
They just were like,
in the postseason.
We're good. They were just like,
Brian
listen,
Dutcher,
we didn't win the Mountain West. Our tournament is over.
Brian Dutcher came out and said, we don't feel that it would be best for our team to play postseason basketball if it's not the NCAA tournament. He said that in a presser. And
Okay.
I guess. I don't know. I mean, I would have enjoyed watching them in the NIT or the Crown. But do what's best for the program, I guess. Let's gear up for the Pac-12. North Carolina VCU 6-11. North Carolina without Caleb Wilson due to his injury.
Yeah, give me VCU in this one. I feel like this is just one where I may pick North Carolina simply because they could be a matchup where they just out-talent VCU, but VCU has much more momentum, and UNC without Caleb Wilson has just looked completely erratic, and I'm not confident in the way that they've been playing to pick them over a team like the Rams dominating in the A10 tournament. I'm super happy to see a 2-bid A10, and I'm really hoping that this could be the year where VCU makes another deepish run in the tournament.
Yeah, man. I mean, 16 of their last 17 VCU have won. They're a top 45 Ken Palm team. UNC has been very different without Caleb Wilson. This was pretty cut and dry to me that I'm taking the 11 seed here.
Yeah, I agree. You look at like UNC offensively and defensively, rank just not great. They're 73rd offensively points per game, 89th defensive points per game. Like they're just not a great team. They're not nearly the same team without Caleb Wilson. And like you guys said, VCU is one of the hottest teams in the country. They've been playing their best ball going into the tournament, which is very important. I just felt like this was a pretty easy pick for VCU.
Yeah, well, that takes us down to Illinois and Penn, 3-14, and these Penn Quakers are feeling pretty hot after their championship win. But Illinois, one of the top 10 or so teams in the nation in overall seed.
There was a part of me that was sad to see Yale exit because they were a team that I was pretty confident. Like if they did make the NCAA tournament, I was definitely picking them first round. But I'm also happy to not only see Penn make it back for the first time in, I want to say like 7-8-ish years, but it's also cool to see Fran McCaffrey back in the NCAA tournament. I'm still going Illinois though. I know what's the name of the guy on Penn who Powers. I know he went.
TJ Power. Went for 44.
He's definitely a guy that I will have I will be watching to see how he performs against Illinois. But I just think the Fighting Illini are too talented for Penn to keep up. This one could definitely be close. I know Illinois has a history of kind of playing down to their first round opponent, but I still like them to make it at least to the second round for now.
Yeah, I agree. Penn outside of TJ Power in that game was not great. I think he had more than half of their points. He's a former 5-star recruit, which is pretty cool that he somehow found his way over to Penn. But Illinois is pretty clearly the better team. They're a very big team. Like they're just gonna out physical Penn. I don't unless it's gonna take TJ Power having a 40 ball again for them to have a chance.
Yeah, I think the size is going to be the hardest thing for Penn to match up with. The Avicic brothers running the 5 rotation. Even like Keaton Wagler and Andrei Stojakovic are big guards that Illinois employs. And that's always going to be a difficult thing for a smaller school, not just in, size of the school. They're not a power program, but they are physically much shorter than Illinois. They're going to probably dominate the glass. They're going to score a lot of paint points. And I find it very difficult to believe that Penn could win, even if TJ Power went out and dropped 44 again. I'm not sure if they could quite keep up because Keaton Wagler might drop 45. But yeah, I think that one's pretty cut and dry. Then we go to Texas Tech or Texas A&M and St. Mary's, WCC, SEC.
I swear I'm not saying this just because I grew up not liking Texas A&M. I just, they're just an opponent I see. When I see them in the bracket, I'm instantly picking St. Mary's just because I get that Texas A&M, they're one of those teams where they had a great start to the season. What have they done lately to prove that they are capable of being a Cinderella this year? I still have faith. It's only year 1 of Buckyball, and they could be something special down the road. I just don't think that this year is it, especially when going up against a coach like Randy Bennett and a team like St. Mary's who are in the tournament year in and year out. I know St. Mary's isn't super consistent with their tournament performance, but I like them to get the round 1 victory here.
Yeah, I'm taking St. Mary's as well. They shoot the 3 ball well. They play great defense. Texas A&M hasn't been very good recently. You end your SEC tournament with a 20-point loss to Oklahoma. That's not how I like to end the year. I'm going to take the Gales. They've got real serious concerns about ever making a deep tournament run. I think you learn that after you watch college basketball for a couple of years. But they're good for a first win and making it into the second round for sure. I'll take them over Texas A&M.
Yeah, I agree. I did at first have Texas A&M, but after looking at it more, St. Mary's is a top 10 defense in the country. They rebound the ball really well. They shoot the 3 really well. They are the best free throw shooting team in the country, which certainly matters a lot in the tournament. I think A&M is probably still a year or 2 away from being like potentially real contenders in the SEC and in the NCAA tournament. I like St. Mary's getting this win.
All right, well, last one of this region, Houston, Idaho. I'm going with Houston. Pretty cut and dry here, 215. Houston usually handles business. They've lost to some top-end teams this year in some closer games, but really haven't dropped any games to teams that they really shouldn't lose to. And Idaho's a team they shouldn't lose to, and I don't think they will.
Yeah, I cost myself big time in our bracket group last year because I picked Houston to lose in the round of 32. I'm going to say that I'm confident that they will at least make it to the Sweet 16 because I could see St. Mary's potentially being a tough matchup for Houston with their defense. But, I like this matchup against Idaho. I like their odds. And I think that they have at least proven that they're capable of keeping up with some of the top-end teams in the country. So I think they'll make it to the Sweet 16.
Yeah, Kelvin Sampson is one of the best coaches in the country. This Houston team is not a team that ever really plays down to their competition. I think they're just going to take care of business against Idaho.
Yeah. Well, we're halfway
Nothing
through
really
the
more to
bracket,
say.
fellas. Halfway through the bracket, almost an hour in. Let's get over to the West. And starting up at the top with Arizona and Long Island. Fins up. I need to see you do it too, Keenan. Fins up.
Hey, man. Hey, I'll be rooting for it, but I'll just say this right now just to get it out there before the tournament even starts. Like I said before we got on air, I am predicting Arizona to win the whole thing. From what I have watched especially against their performances against Houston this season. I believe that this team has the discipline and the depth to win it all this season, and that's going to start with what I assume is going to be a dominant victory over Long Island. Love to see the Sharks there, but it's going to be a dominant victory.
Yeah, Long Island's awesome. The fins up is great. They're gonna get smoked by Arizona.
Oh no, they got the.
I love the fins up. I love everything about Long Island University. They don't have a chance against Arizona. Arizona is way bigger, way more physical. They've got good guard play. Like there's a reason Keenan picked them all. They've got what you need to be a real contender. Long Island is gonna get. They're gonna get blown out in this game.
You guys can't see it, but I'm currently showing a fins up edit on the stream right now. What kills me is the little dog they get.
The dog that they hold up is awesome.
Wait, let me freeze frame it. Let me get this. 1 second. This is so professional of me. Yeah, little dog that they get, and they put him in a little shark costume. If you're not familiar with fins up, Long Island is a very small school. Very small school out in the NEC. That like these two random dudes just started showing up to games and going fins up, and now that they got a little bit of a crowd, a little bit of environment out there, but still they're really bad. They only beat Air Force by 4. They played Air Force this year and only won by 4. And I've watched a lot of Air Force basketball. Air Force is terrible. Air Force is dreadful. And a lot of the teams they've played have been pretty dreadful. Me and Aidan went on a deep dive of their non-conference schedule because I so badly wanted to pick them over U of A. It was really rough. It's
really bad. It's really, really bad.
If you want to go look through it yourself, you're more than welcome. But man, I'd love nothing more than Arizona to fall to Long Island. But I can't, in my right conscience, pick it. I'll take the Wildcats. Villanova, Utah State, 8-9.
I'm going with the Aggies here, and this isn't just the Mountain West fan and me talking. It's also just a guy that I'm not impressed with Villanova this season. I'm really not. The Big East was not strong this year, and I think they got away with just beating up on some of the lower end teams in that conference. They kept it close with UConn for one game, but I just feel like a team that just is in the second tier of the Big East. And what that tells me is this team doesn't stack up against a squad like Utah State.
Yeah, I think Utah State got kind of screwed over a little bit here, being a 9 seed. Won the Mountain West.
I think the Mountain West having a down year didn't help their case, unfortunately.
Yeah, I agree, but I still think they were solid in non-con. They still won the Mountain West both in the regular season and in the tournament. 28-6, 30th in Ken Palm. That's above a lot of teams that are seated ahead of them. I'll tell you that much. I think they could have been as high as a 7 or an 8, but either way, I do think they'll take down Villanova, who, you want to talk about the Mountain West being bad, and the Mountain West was bad. The Big East was also a little bit rough this year, although there is definitely levels to it. So I'll take Utah State, and then I think they'll actually give an interesting matchup to Arizona. We're always usually used to the past couple of years Utah State having a solid offense, but they've got a pretty strong defense this year compared to what they usually have. 45th in the nation, which is not bad at all. And they have a varied attack on offense with MJ Collins and Mason Falslev. And sure, they dropped a couple games in the Mountain West, but I certainly think that'll be enough to take down Villanova. Aidan, anything else?
No, not a whole lot else to add. I also like Utah State in this game. I think they're a better team. I think they were way underseeded, being 28-6 Mountain West champs and only getting a 9 seed when Villanova's an 8 seed. I think we'll see why. We'll see how and why Utah State should have been probably a higher seed.
Yeah. Well, Wisconsin High Point, the 5-12 matchup. Nick Boyd in Wisconsin. He's been around a lot. FAU, San Diego State, but they've been pretty hot as of recent. Will they be able to take down High Point?
It would be so Greg Gard to lose this game with how hot they've been over the last month or so. I know they had a really bad loss. I don't remember to which team it was, but I think it was to maybe Minnesota, like right in the midst of them starting to turn their season around. Yeah, it was to Oregon. Oh my God, they lost to Oregon on the road, which is almost it was almost deflated any hope I had for the Badgers, but they then proceeded to go on a scorching hot streak, beating Purdue and Illinois in the process, and almost taking down Wisconsin, if not for that last second shot to barely lose in the semifinal. Man, I could see this being way closer than Badgers fans want. I got to go with the Badgers here, and they're a team if they can stay consistent. If the threes are raining, then this team can go far in the tournament. If they're not, though, it's going to get ugly.
Yeah, this is another team that I saw in person. I was at that Wisconsin Michigan game. Awesome game. Wisconsin, quite frankly, might have the best backcourt duo in the country with Nick Boyd and John Blackwell. They shoot a lot of threes. I think as does High Point, but like Wisconsin is so hot, but they're such a weird team. Like they could go to the Final Four and they could lose in round one. I don't have them losing in round one here. I do think that they're a good enough team and they've been playing good enough basketball as of late that they'll be able to take care of High Point.
Yeah, I agree. I'll take Wisconsin as well. I think they have enough consistency to get out of round one. Next up, we got Arkansas and Hawaii, and I love Hawaii. I also love Arkansas, and I got to be completely honest. This is a dreadful matchup for Hawaii. The Rainbow Warriors are sick. If you're not familiar with them out in the Big West, they play this really interesting style of defense where they essentially don't help. They kind of just leave guys on an island, and what that leads to is a very low assist rate for teams and a very low three-point rate. They're letting guys get to the rim kind of a lot, and they're trusting that they can have man-on-man defense because they have a lot of good man-on-man defenders. The problem is they're playing Darius Acuff. So if you don't help off him, they're probably going to get torched. I would forecast like legitimately a 50 bomb for Acuff against the defense that plays like basically no help. And it works out in the Big West because they have such good man-up defense. They don't let up a lot of threes, so that leads to a very consistent defense. But they just haven't played a team like Arkansas who can score one-on-one in isolation like this, and it is going to be a nightmare. If I could have gotten Hawaii against like Kansas, their style just doesn't work against too good of teams because like Darren Peterson would do the same thing, and Melvin Council and all them. Maybe against like Nebraska, or I don't know. They would have to have been like a 12 seed, honestly, for this style of play to work, because you just can't not play help against like teams with really good isolation scorers. It just doesn't work.
That's just not gonna fly against Darius. You're absolutely correct. That doesn't fly against a guy like Darius Acuff, who if you let him, he will cook you to the basket every single time. It was awesome seeing Arkansas finally start to realize their potential in the SEC tournament. I know that did include beating teams like Oklahoma and Ole Miss, but they also did beat Vanderbilt in the championship game. And the key here is if they can get the pieces around Acuff, like Brazil, I know Malik Thomas, and Wagner to start performing. They really need Pringle to actually be a big man for once. But yeah, I'm sorry, Hawaii. I love seeing you in here. I mentioned to Aidan that the last time that the Rainbow Warriors were in the tournament, they upset Jaylen Brown and the Cal Golden Bears as a 4-13 matchup, mind you. But I'm going to go with Arkansas here. Whoopie.
Real quick, in the comments, TDR says Illinois winning it all. We did talk a little bit earlier about Illinois' matchup with Penn. And I think they'll beat.
I'm gonna have to disagree there.
Dude, I don't know if I don't know if they're beating VCU in the second round. Actually, I don't think they're beating VCU in the second round. But I would be surprised if they made it to like Elite Eight. I would be like, whoa, nice job fighting Illini. But Aidan,
this is an easy Arkansas pick for me. You know, we're not giving away all our bracket, but I do have Arkansas in the Final Four. So I'm very high on Arkansas.
I'm really not a big fan of you just taking my bracket, man.
I'm not taking your bracket.
No, you're not. We've gone
great minds think alike.
We have a lot of similar picks.
We have a lot of similar picks. I keep on flipping back and forth between if I want Gonzaga or Arkansas in my Final Four because I don't like Purdue
I like
or
Arkansas a little more.
And
I think Arkansas,
but Braden,
Darius Acuff.
Wait till we get to Gonzaga.
But Darius Acuff is maybe my favorite player in the country. Like how you feel about Kingston Fleming's, like as a player, as a prospect, is how I feel about Darius Acuff. Like he is such a good player. He's so fun to watch. I did not realize that about Hawaii's defense, but that is a awful matchup for Arkansas.
Dude.
Like he's going to cook them. So I really like this Arkansas team. I like John Calipari as a coach. Like I like their guard play. If the bigs can step up around the guards of Arkansas, this team is going to be scary when in the tournament.
Man, like, yeah, Hawaii's so fun. Like, it's such an interesting way to play basketball, and it like works so well at a mid-major level. But man, they're just it's one of the games I'm most excited for. It's one of the games I'm most excited for because I feel like why couldn't Acuff go for like 50? Oh, it's gonna be cool. Then we get BYU versus either Texas or NC State. Now, I honestly was pretty surprised. See, I don't like any three of these teams. I don't like BYU post departure of Richie Saunders, and I don't love Texas, and I don't like NC State after how bad they've been recently. I really don't know who to pick out of this group, fellas.
I'm not picking BYU.
This is one of those where I just don't really care. Like, yes, you have to pick someone, but I mean, let's be honest. Like, whoever wins this is going to get crushed by Gonzaga. And well, I'm sorry, I shouldn't spoil our second round pick, but I mean, yeah, BYU without Richie Saunders has just been erratic, like crazy. Texas has been uninspired. NC State's been even more uninspired. It's just one of those. I'll pick BYU, I guess. It doesn't really matter.
They lost by 41 to Louisville, 29 to Virginia, and 29 to Duke, and 6 to Notre Dame, all in the past month.
They lost to Notre Dame.
Yes, they lost by 6 to Notre Dame in OT.
Yes.
I don't remember that matchup.
Remember I told you they lost to Notre Dame.
Yeah.
I don't remember that game at all, but I had Texas NC State winning, and I'm going to stick to it because that was my gut reaction.
Texas lost to Ole Miss.
To be fair, Ole Miss did go on a deep run in the SEC tournament. That's not me trying to bail out this team. I'm not inspired by Texas at all. The only reason why I could see them maybe like making it to the second round is they do have an experienced coach in Sean Miller. But yeah, there's nothing when I watch Texas that makes me go, yeah, this team is good.
The reason why I would pick against BYU is simply because they have no depth. Like it is AJ DeBansa basically out there by himself. Every once in a while, Rob Wright will have a good game, but in the last month or so of the season, there's been so much on DeBansa's shoulders. I don't see him being able to carry a team in the tournament. I think one of these two squads will be good enough to get the win over BYU.
Yeah, I don't like BYU. Yeah, I hate all three of these teams. I think Gonzaga is going to smoke any of them.
Whoever they play, yeah.
And I wish another 11 seed was over here. I really truly I wish. I don't know. I wish Miami. I'm gonna take BYU. I think Debanza has one good game in him to carry, but I don't know. There's some matchups that are hard to pick because you love both teams. There's some that are hard to pick because you hate both. This is on the hate both. Gonzaga, Kennesaw State. I'm really in Gonzaga. I keep on switching between them and Arkansas as my Final Four pick. The reason I'm so confident in Gonzaga is because A, they match up really well against Kennesaw State. B, the BYU, Texas, NC State quadrant is easy. And they're 30-3. They do have that one loss to Portland. Bad loss, but that came after the Braden Huff injury. And there is a chance that he comes back. It's not going to happen this weekend, but maybe round of 16. And if they were to make it to the Final Four, he would be there, most likely. And they're such a better team with Braden Huff that I just really like Gonzaga. The one thing with Gonzaga for me is they did lose by 40 to Michigan earlier in the year, and that's pretty hard to overcome. But if you just ignore their 40-point loss to Michigan, this is a really good team, guys.
Yeah, I mean, it comes down to Mark Few for me. He knows what he's doing. I think this is a team that cruises to the Sweet 16. Yeah, I'm not going to – there's no world where I'm going to pick Kennesaw State as the upset. Again, another team that I love that they're in the tournament, love the Owls. But, yeah, I think Gonzaga easily beats Kennesaw State. It doesn't matter who emerges out of BYU or the bubble teams. They'll win there. And that creates a really interesting potential Sweet 16 with the two matchups we've yet to talk about in the West region.
Yeah. Let's get down to it. Miami, Florida, and Missouri.
I'm going to go Miami here. I think they've just been playing more inspiring basketball as of late than Missouri. That loss to Kentucky in the SEC tournament for Missouri just kind of showed me that, again, I think there's always levels to teams, and I think Missouri just fits in second, maybe third tier SEC team, which isn't terrible, but that I don't think that's good enough to stack up against a team that's been as hot as the Hurricanes over the past month. Honestly, I was a little surprised to see that Missouri was a 10 seed. I thought that they should have been probably closer to the bubble than they were.
I agree. Yeah, I think Missouri, I'm not super high on the SEC. They weren't incredible in play. Miami's held up. The only couple losses they have been to some of the better teams in the ACC. I think they take this first one pretty solidly.
I'm gonna have to disagree with you guys. I really like Missouri in this game. And I think March Madness comes down to players, and I like Mark Mitchell a lot. I think he's a very good player. I like Sean Phillips as well. I think the front court duo there of Missouri is going to help them to dominate the rebounding and dominate the points in the paint. I like Missouri in this. I know Miami's been very hot as of just in general. They've been playing good ball, but I like Missouri to get this win.
All right, well that takes us to our last game of this bracket. Purdue and Queens.
Yeah, give me Purdue here.
Yeah.
Really?
Shocker.
Yeah, I'm not taking Queens. Give me the Boilermakers.
I'm not taking Queens either. I am taking Purdue. Braden Smith's been a little bit up and down as of recent, but I think he's got enough to take on Queens. A really good offensive team, 77th in the nation, but the worst defense in March Madness right now. 322nd.
They are horrendous.
They are the worst defense in March Madness, and they're playing the number one offense. Purdue has the best offensive efficiency. I mean, it could get really, really ugly in terms of how many they drop. On the Queen, what is it? The Queens,
Lions, I think.
Royals or
Royals,
Is it the
Lions?
Lions.
I don't
Royals?
know.
They're like
Okay.
yeah.
I don't know.
I know their
Um,
logo is a lion, but I'm not sure.
they're the
I did
Royals.
just
They're the
want to
Royals.
add
Yeah.
the Royals. Okay, I just did want to add that I'm actually really excited for like a potential Purdue versus Miami. Even I think Missouri would make a very interesting round of 32 matchup with Purdue. I think that they could be in some trouble there.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's get down to the Midwest. I am exhausted. This show it drains you. You know, no life is harder than the life of a podcaster. So, Michigan, UMBC, Howard.
uh,
Hmm.
hydrogen bomb coughing baby.
I'm gonna take UMBC because they beat a 1 seed in the past. No, we're taking Michigan. They're too big. They're too physical. You look at if you wanted to pick a 1 seed that was gonna fall, it wouldn't be this Michigan team. They have pulverized inferior foes all year. Like, go look at some of their non-conference games at the beginning of the year. I mean, they dropped 40. They beat Gonzaga by 40. They beat San Diego State by like 40. And Gonzaga and San Diego State are a lot
They
better.
beat Auburn by 40.
They're a lot better than UMBC and Howard, in my opinion. So, any disagreements?
No.
Georgia St. Louis 8-9. You're looking at an interesting St. Louis team because they dropped quite a few towards the end. They were, one of the last. They were really strong at a point. We were looking at them as a one-loss mid-major team, and then they lose to Rhode Island, and then they lose to Dayton, and then they lose to George Mason big, and then they lose to Dayton again, and it's like it doesn't feel like this team is playing well at the right time.
Yeah, I mean, you've perfectly outlined why I think I'm gonna have to go with Georgia here. I have been so vocal for my support earlier in the season for St. Louis, and I'm happy to see them here. But you can't tell me that if you've watched them play that you are a believer in their chances. Like, even if they win this game, can you imagine them going up against Michigan? What that would look like? This team was down big to George Washington at halftime in the A10 tournament. George Washington's solid, but St. Louis is supposed to be better than this. And I think Georgia is one of the more underrated teams heading into the tournament. So I'm going to go with the Bulldogs here.
Whoa. It was George Mason, not George Washington. And for your information,
No,
Washington. It was George Mason. I have it pulled up right now.
What? I thought it was George Washington. Aiden, am I wrong here?
I would have to look. I don't know.
I guess I'm putting it up on the screen. You guys can't see. But St. Louis lost to George Mason by 29.
No. They were down big at half against George Washington in the tournament.
Ended up winning.
And
Yes.
it looked like they were going to be like an automatic out in the tournament, but then they made a huge comeback. But no, I know what you're talking about, Casey.
They still lost the 30 to George Mason, which not good.
Is pretty rough. Yeah.
Yeah. Not good.
I'm still gonna take St. Louis, personally, but I really struggle for it, and I think either of these teams is gonna get beat by Michigan.
Yeah.
I'm there's no justification. I've outlined why they'd be bad, but they were good at the beginning of the year. I think they have the talent to do it, and I just got to be honest. I just kind of want to see it happen. I just want to see them win. That's honestly why I'm picking them.
There's a little part of that. I really like St. Louis, but they've been a really good offensive team all year. I know that they've had games where like the George Mason game where they got blown out, where they've just looked awful. But I do still like this St. Louis team, and I liked Georgia at the beginning of the year, not so much as of late, especially after losing to Ole Miss in the tournament. I'm going to go with St. Louis.
So that brings us to the 5-12, our last 5-12, Texas Tech and the Akron Zips. Tech has looked really good at times this year, but loses JT Toppin to an ACL injury, which is absolutely devastating. And they'll go up against an Akron Zips team that won the MAC, has been very hot as of recent, and has been a pretty trendy 12 upset team.
Good Lord, can this Texas Tech team choose what it wants to be this season? The game against Iowa State in the Big 12 tournament just perfectly epitomizes who they are. They were once dominating early on. I don't remember how much they were up by, but they had a huge lead against Iowa State and then proceeded to get blown out by 22. This team is just so hard to fully buy into. 3 straight losses going into this game against TCU, BYU, and Iowa State. They're good enough to they beat Iowa State on the road. That shows, and keep in mind, they did beat Arizona, one of the 2 losses the Wildcats have. I know that was with JT Toppin, but that shows how talented they are. But there's a reason why if you go to the March Madness app, Akron is the suggested pick. And I'm going to go with the Zips here.
Oh, man. I mean, Christian Anderson will be playing. He might be cleared as fully healthy, but I'm not truly sure if he's going to be fully healthy. And they've lost their last 3, and Akron's been really hot. On the other end, the Zips have won their past 10. And I keep on flipping back and forth. I truly do. I've changed it 3 times while on this podcast. But I kind of just keep on going back to the fact that Akron is 0-3 against teams in the tournament. I'd feel a little bit better if they had a win against the tournament team. But they squandered their chance against Miami, Ohio. They lost to Murray State. They got beat pretty bad by Purdue. So, I'm going with the Zips. I don't care. Texas Tech is too banged up. I'm going with the Zips.
That's kind of my reasoning. I think Texas Tech is a little too banged up. Akron is hot and one of the best offenses in the country. They're just a really good team, and I think they'll be able to get it done versus Texas Tech.
Yeah, that's one that I'm gonna change so many times. Alabama Hofstra. Bama plays fast. They have a really good offense. They are quick, and they're going up against Hofstra, who is slow. 317 fastest pace for Hofstra versus Alabama, who has the 4th fastest pace.
Obviously the big news coming from this one is that Aiden Holloway will not be playing in this game. I think Nate Oates has already confirmed that they are preparing to play without him, not only for this game, but for the entire weekend. Huge loss for the Crimson Tide. But I'm still going to go with him here. I think that that difference in pace and play will be the difference here. Could be a little bit of a tighter squeeze than the Crimson Tide are looking for. But again, as much as I don't like him, I think Nate Oates is pretty good at avoiding round 1 upsets with Alabama. So I'm going to take them here.
Yeah, we'll see how much the Aiden Holloway news, if that ends up being kind of a distraction for Alabama. I don't maybe going ahead in the tournament, especially if he doesn't play in the other games, but I don't see it being an issue versus Hofstra. Their pace of play is so good. They are, I believe, the best scoring offense in all of college basketball. So I think they're simply just gonna outscore Hofstra. They might put up 100 points on them.
Yeah, they're probably gonna dictate the pace. If Hofstra can slow the game down, maybe they got a shot. Especially with how rattled they're gonna be Alabama with, a teammate being in prison or jail. But I'm still going to take Alabama. They play really fast. They can really, run up the total here on Hofstra. And I'll take them to win this one and probably make it to the Sweet 16. That takes us down to the 6-11. It's going to be Tennessee versus either SMU or Miami, Ohio.
I mean, I don't know. This will be a really interesting first four game. I think this is the one that is the most intriguing because we all want to see how Miami of Ohio will do against SMU, who I was high on the Mustangs, but they've just completely collapsed over the last month or so. I know a lot of that is due to injuries mounting up, but the way they've been playing, they just have no momentum coming in. But that's not even really a compliment to Tennessee. Unlike a lot of Rick Barnes' teams, this team has just done absolutely nothing to inspire me this year. They did beat Houston, but they were kind of, for a team that's usually one of the best teams in the SEC, they were pretty middling in conference play this year. So I'll go with Tennessee here. I think Rick Barnes, his experience will help Tennessee make it past the first round. Other than that, I think Tennessee's in serious danger.
I like both of these teams in the first four. I like SMU, and obviously we know about Miami, Ohio. I need to see how Miami, Ohio looks versus SMU, but if they look good and win that game, I love them versus Tennessee. I think their offense is really good. Obviously the UMass loss is not good, but I think they were bound to trip up at some point. It's unfortunate that it happened as early as it did and made them a bubble team. But I do like them to beat SMU and then beat Tennessee.
Yeah, I'm very interested how this is going to go with Miami, Ohio. That's the most excited I am for a game of the first four. I do think they'll beat SMU, but I don't think they quite have the chops to beat Tennessee. A Tennessee squad that the analytics love, and a Miami, Ohio squad that the analytics don't love. I will say the analytics don't factor in that Miami does have that clutch ability down the stretch of games. There is a real talent to closing one-score games that Miami has. I just worry that with Tennessee, it's not going to really be a close game. I think Tennessee's going to pretty handedly beat them. I think they have, just a influx of such higher talent. So I'll take Tennessee to win this one. Takes us to the 3-14 Virginia Wright State. I've got Virginia here.
Yeah, I have Virginia as a serious sleeper this year. I think their defense is ferocious, and I was really pulling for them in that ACC championship against Duke. They almost had it. I think that proves that this team has the capability to go on a deep run here. I like them to not only win this game against Wright State, but defeat whoever comes out of Tennessee, Miami, or SMU, and make it to the Sweet 16 at minimum.
Yeah, I really like this Virginia team. They're great defensively. They're not going to lose to Wright State. I think they can certainly make a run. I do have to point out, I might butcher this name, but Ugana Onyensu.
You were almost there.
He had 9 blocks versus Duke, and he had 8 versus NC State. 9 blocks in the game is hard to really wrap my head around. They're such a good defensive team. They're back to that Virginia ways, but they're a pretty good offensive team too. It's not quite like the old Tony Bennett days where they would win games like 60-50. They can still score. I really like this Virginia team.
Yeah, Onyensu is awesome. Him and Johan Grunlow both average 2+ blocks. This Virginia team averages 6.3 blocks as a squad, which is first out of any power conference team. Simply put, they have a really good interior defense. One that I think should be plenty good enough to stop Wright State, and I think should be good enough to go on a little bit of a run. I have them in my Elite Eight. I worry about some of their schedule stuff. They didn't have a really strong non-conference schedule, and although they were close with Duke, they did not beat the Blue Devils once this year, and I didn't think the ACC was that strong. But still, I think they'll have enough to beat Wright State. Takes us into the 7-10 Kentucky Santa Clara.
Oh, man, oh, man, oh, man. Give me the Broncos, man. Give me the Broncos. I will say it again. Give me Santa Clara. I get that, Kentucky is good. I know they've been banged up for a lot of the season. Maybe they haven't been playing up to their full potential. Give me Santa Clara. This is a team that I was ecstatic to see them make it to March Madness. They're a team that was good enough to beat St. Mary's in the tournament. They kept up with Gonzaga for a lot of that game. Yeah, give me Santa Clara here. No, I don't need to say anything else.
Yeah, I agree. I don't really love this Kentucky team, and I really like this Santa Clara team. Like I watched their game versus Gonzaga earlier in the year, and I thought that they played very well in that game, and I was really hoping that they would make the tournament because I like this team a lot. I think they match up very well against Kentucky, and I just yeah, I'm high on the Santa Clara team, and I'm not very high on this Kentucky team, so I will also take the Broncos.
I feel the same way. I like what Santa Clara's done. They've had points this year where, I mean, they really truly almost beat Gonzaga twice and could have been ranked much, much higher. But they've been solid. Kentucky hasn't. I feel like it's pretty simple. All right, our last game, fellas, just coming in at the hour-and-a-half mark. Iowa State, Tennessee State. Anyone taking Tennessee State?
Iowa State.
Give me the Cyclones. Not a whole lot to really say there. Tennessee State is not, they're 172 in the net. Not a great team, and Iowa State is very good, and they've dominated teams in the Big 12 tournament.
Well, there we go. I agree. I have Iowa State as well. That wraps it up. That is our perfect bracket. If you follow the conglomeration of what we said, you will have a perfect bracket. You will win not just $1 billion, but $2 billion from Warren Buffett and from Kalshi. So shout out to you, and shout out to us through getting through it. There's certainly going to be a lot that I'm going to change, though. And I'm excited to make the rest of the seed videos for sure. But let's get into our player of the week, or really should I say sleeper of the week. This week for player of the week, we're going to be looking at specifically a March Madness college basketball player that we think is going to be that Jack Golke, that guy who, not just Jack Golke, there's plenty of other examples, but that guy, maybe even like a Steph Curry, like a guy who's on a mid-major or a low-major team who surprises, plays really well, wins his team a couple games, and you're talking about him for years to come. Does anyone want to go first?
I'll go first just because I don't want anyone taking this guy from me. I'm going to go TJ Power. After what he did in the Ivy League tournament, not only is it probably the greatest performance in Ivy League tournament history, it's one of the greatest performances in conference tournament history, period. I believe he had 44 and 14. He hit like 2 threes late, 1 3 to tie it with a second left to send it to overtime. He's 6'9", like great size, really good shooter as well. Also a former 5-star. He was originally committed to Duke, then he went to Virginia, and now he's at Penn. Crazy like sequence there, crazy journey. But he's a really, really good player, and he's a very fun player to watch. If he's somehow able to take down Illinois, I think capture the hearts of people all across America.
I'll say my guy just because he's another person I don't want stolen from me. Yeah, give me Dominique Daniels Jr. He was, again, that performance he had against Utah Valley was absolutely electric. That was one where I was up like past 1 a.m. sitting in my dad's office working on my March Madness spreadsheet. And I was just trying my hardest not to like yell or jump up and down, but I was super pumped to watch that performance. He's been awesome this season, averaging 22.3 points per game. He could be a big reason why Cal Baptist pulls off the upset against Kansas potentially.
Fellas, I want you to picture something for me. You're out on a basketball court. You're playing defense. You're a pretty solid team. Okay, you know what? You started off the year 20-0. And at one point you thought, we could be as high as a 2, maybe even a 1 seed. But you've fallen off a little bit. And you're on the court trying to get the first win for your team. And you see these 2 short, little, scrawny, white redheads bombing down threes on you like you're in the middle of, who knows where in a war. You're looking not at just one guy, but I'm going to give you a 2-for-1. Cooper and Kobe Campbell for the Troy Trojans are going to be the duo this March. I mean, I think they're going to beat Nebraska, and I think they could go on to do even just a little bit. No, I think they're going to get screwed by Vanderbilt. But I do think they're going to beat Nebraska. And these little redheads just run all around the floor. I saw them myself when they played San Diego State. 6'2" and 6'1". They shoot a combined 10 threes a game, both shooting around 40%. They're going to get hot on those Cornhuskers. They're not going to know what hit them. They're going to be my players of the week. Can you guys just say it one more time so I can write it down?
I got TJ Power from Penn.
Yeah.
I got Dominique Daniels from Cal Baptist.
And then you got the two redheads from Troy.
Dude, those little, screw those 2 little guys, man. They terrorize my life. I hope they terrorize everyone else's lives. What is this? JJ Metz FAU says UCLA to the Elite Eight. I have UCLA in my Elite Eight. I know Aidan does too.
Let's see.
Right?
Do I have them in my Elite Eight or do I have them in my
we were
Sweet
just talking
16?
about it.
I think they're gonna. Yeah,
I think they match up real. Like UCF is a pretty weak team. I think they've been really hot. They can take down UConn, and I think Michigan State.
And then they'll take down Michigan State.
I think that's an easier side of the bracket, all things considered.
Yeah.
Well, let's get over to we'll have a little NBA and a little World Baseball Classic to finish it off. To feel like, it still is the Breakdown After Dark. We love college basketball, but it's still the Breakdown After Dark. We got to cover a little bit of everything. The NBA. I really want to talk about maybe 2 things here. First of all, the NBA is officially cleared to talk about expansion. They're going to be voting on it, specifically with Seattle and Las Vegas. I think a expansion draft would be, for lack of a better word, sick. That'd be cool. I've never seen that in my life. Outside of not in the NBA at least.
I think the NBA desperately needs expansion too. I think there's way too much talent sitting on the end of NBA benches and sitting in the G League. There's so much talent. I think getting potentially 2 more teams would be awesome. Seattle getting an NBA team back would be. They have to be the Sonics. They cannot have any other name other than the Sonics. Bring the Seattle Supersonics back, would be so awesome. And seeing an expansion draft would be really cool. I want to say when was the last expansion team? Would it have been the Charlotte Bobcats?
That's a good question. You might be right about it being the Bobcats.
Timberwolves are pretty recent. That comes to mind, but
I think
it was the Bobcats. They
Yeah.
in
Okay.
the 04-05 season. So that was like the year that I was
Right
born,
before we
pretty
were
much.
born. Yeah, right before we were born.
So
I had a Seattle Supersonic shirt at one point. I went to Seattle and they were still selling them everywhere. They still absolutely love the Supersonics. If they brought them back to the NBA, they would have no problem getting the fans back. I would love them to not only return basketball back to Seattle, but I do think from what I've seen that the Thunder are cooperating and are willing to give back the Supersonics history to Seattle if expansion does happen. That would just be absolutely amazing. I think that should be the standard for every team. I'm not going to name any names, but there's a team in Tennessee that could really use a lesson in that.
Well, I no, but the Grizzlies.
Well, let's just say it's a different sport.
Oh, different sport. Shoot, are there
the
any base?
Titans,
Oh, well,
Hey, not naming any names.
the,
oh,
the Titans with their Oilers history. Yeah.
oh, dude, those jerseys are sick, dude. I love those
Yeah,
jerseys.
they can they can use those colors all they want.
I love those jerseys. But no, that is sick, and I think the Thunder have definitely forged their own identity. Like you think about the Thunder, they're Kevin Durant, they're Russell Westbrook, they're that era.
They're
Plus,
Shea.
they're the Shea era. Like they have their own championship now. So I think that makes sense. And then Vegas would be an interesting team too. And then you add Vegas and Seattle. One team has to move to the East, and
I think it's got to be Memphis.
it's either
Yeah,
Memphis
yeah, I
or
agree.
the Timberwolves. I could see it being the Timberwolves because you look at where they are like geographically. They're right next to all those like Great Lakes teams like
With
Chicago
like
and
the
Indiana.
Bucks, the
Like
Pacers.
although the Grizzlies are pretty far to the east, like they're not that far from the Texas teams. The closest team to Minnesota is Denver, which doesn't seem that far, but like it really is. Like that is a long trek to be the closest team. And then outside of that, it's like Utah. They're pretty much on an island out there. And I also think that would be better because the East is generally a little bit weaker. And you move a
So
good team to the East. If you move the Grizzlies to the East, like
it doesn't really change
Yeah.
a whole lot.
now that being said, the East has been very good recently. You have a lot of teams with some big win streaks. The Hawks have won 10 straight. The Magic have been really good as of late. The Cavs, the Knicks, obviously the Celtics. Back in the day, you'd look at the play-in and the Hornets have been hot as of late. You'd look at the play-in and you go, oh my god, like these teams are terrible. The Hawks, the Sixers, the Heat, they're all in the play-in right now. The Heat are 8 games above 500.
Yeah, I mean, this is every single team in the play-in right now is at least 500 or better in the Eastern Conference, and I I kind of like all these teams. Now, I do remember when we had our buy sell episode, and I sold on the 76ers. That is looking pretty good as of now, as they are now the 9 seed in the East. But I like all these teams. Like Miami's good, obviously, with Bam Adebayo. Atlanta, like you said, is like the hottest
Won
team
10
in
in a
basketball
row.
right now.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're playing really well. And then Charlotte has been like really surging too. Yeah, the play-in might be like as good as it maybe has ever been. Is that crazy to say?
At least in
No,
the East.
I don't think that's not a crazy statement. I mean, usually, you would know, Aiden. Usually you look at it, it's the usual
Oh,
suspects.
it's
Oh
the
God,
Bulls
yeah,
Invitational.
it's the Bulls. Yeah, whatever. But I think
Dude.
this year's genuinely interesting.
The Bulls are so far from the play-in now. They're 6
I
games
know.
away.
I like it.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's
Uh,
gonna put a smile on your face.
They're
I
far, man.
I was tired of it. Tired of the
Poor
play-in.
Bulls.
Um,
Man, them and the
I
Bucks are
did-
going them and the Bucks are going to be fighting for that like 11-12 because they're both so far from the play-in, but they're also both so far from like
They're so
the
far from like
true
yeah,
trash.
the
The Nets,
Nets.
Wizards, Pacers.
yeah. I did want to mention real quickly before we move on. I know we've talked about the Magic a couple of times. They were a team that I was bordering on selling their stock, but it is a relief to see that they are starting to find some form. I know we've talked a lot about their scoring issues. I mean, if they play up to their potential, this team is at least, I think, in the better half of the top 8 in the Eastern Conference. I think it's yet to be seen if they really stack up against a team like Cleveland, the Knicks. I really don't think they can compete against Detroit and Boston, but I'll be curious to see how they finish out the rest of the regular season.
Yeah, I'll be interested. I gotta keep. I think it's good timing when March Madness kind of ends. The NBA season comes to an end. You get to balance it out. Because March basketball in the NBA is a little bit unserious. I mean, we had Bam Adebayo score 83. That's so crazy, man. That's so crazy. He's really.
Not only will I never forget his performance, but the discourse around it was just, oh my god, dude.
That was the greatest basketball performance of our lives, guys. It was. Like I don't know how you can argue that.
Yeah, I mean it's the 43 free throw attempts is nuts, but
did you guys watch the game live at all?
I watched the tail end of it.
Unfortunately, I didn't.
I saw people talking about it, so I tuned in a little bit, like much later in the game.
I watched the last 5 minutes or so, and he did get fouled, a lot. But I also watched back the tape of literally every single foul and every single bucket and everything. And like, two things stand out.
A lot of it was earned.
They were like legit. He was just getting fouled. Like, they could not stop him going downhill. They couldn't stop him as a shooter. And then two, the last 4 minutes of this game, you have to watch. Like, the highlights do not do it justice. It was just ridiculous what they were doing. They were triple teaming him from half court and just trying to grab and pull him away from the basket. And it was, the Wizards were doing absolutely everything in their power to not have him break this record. It was difficult. I mean, you can say what you want about the Heat also fouling back and whatnot, but it wasn't like the Wizards just gave up and laid over. They were embarrassed that this was happening to them, and it should embarrass them that Bam Adebayo dropped 83 points. Not even that good of a score. Truly.
His point per game numbers jumped a whole point. It jumped from 18-9 to 20 a game.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Really crazy times we're living in. But let's wrap it up. We might just sneak our way under the hour mark here. World Baseball Classic. We now have the final lined up after the recent games. It's going to be the U.S. And Venezuela in the final. How are we thinking about the tournament as a whole?
I couldn't really say that I would have predicted it would be USA Venezuela at the very end of the World Baseball Classic. It's certainly been an interesting ride. I'll say that. That USA loss to Italy last week was truly shocking. They were on the brink of not even making it to the knockout stage. They did get lucky since Italy beat Mexico. But that game against the Dominican Republic should be remembered for a long, long time. Just truly some of the best across baseball going head-to-head against each other. Paul Skeens on the mound. But, man, that call at the end, I don't know why now that they're implementing the automatic ball strike system into MLB, I don't know why they aren't putting it in the WBC. That was a horrible call to end an otherwise amazing game.
I did see something about that. I think it's part of it was because they would have had to get the proper height measurements for every player on every single country. And then I think Japan and maybe one other country has a different ABS system that they would have had to implement. So I think it was just too hard to implement for an international tournament. But moments like that are when you absolutely do need it, because it worked out in the U.S.'s favor, but that was simply just not a strike.
No, it wasn't. I think the real shocker though is Venezuela has been super impressive in this WBC. I mean, they shocked Japan, who are the defending WBC champions. Um, and you have to consider that, I mean, Venezuela is not short of star power at all, but they're doing this without Jose Altuve. He never even participated in the World Baseball Classic due to insurance issues. But you've still got guys like Ronald Acuna, Miguel Garcia, Luis Ariz, Eugenio Suarez, Gleyber Torres. They're not short of MLB regulars. But when you're going against a guy like Otani, Yamamoto, Murakami, Suzuki, it just shocks me that Venezuela has advanced all the way to the championship game. I would be surprised, honestly, if they find a way to prevail over the United States. They've been riding incredible form, even if they don't win it all. I'm super impressed by Venezuela.
Yeah, I had pointed them out before the tournament as like one of my like real sleepers. Like I like the Mexico team. I like this Venezuela team. I did not think that they would make it all the way to the final. But I did think that they would perform pretty well. Like they have a good roster, but definitely did not see them beating that Japanese team. I figured we would get a I figured USA Dominican Republic would be the final. Obviously, the bracket didn't work out like that, or that we would get a rematch with the USA and Japan.
And if just real quickly, just to show you how seriously Japan takes the WBC, their manager, and again, this team won the WBC only 3 years ago. After this loss to Venezuela, he immediately resigned from his post.
Wow.
That's pretty crazy. Was it related? It was because of the loss, yeah.
It was immediately after the loss.
Like, like out at the press conference, that would be pretty funny.
He,
But
he said the results spoke for itself. That's what he said.
yeah, well, I would, I think that's a little bit of a brutal reaction, considering you won it just 3 years ago. But hey, I love that they take it seriously. Yeah, the World Baseball Classic has been on a lot at PHNX. I was telling Keenan about this earlier. I don't think I told you, Aidan. At PHNX, they're going to have me start going to baseball press conferences and recording them and like asking questions at the pressers and whatnot and being like the baseball guy for the Diamondbacks. I'm very excited to
For
step
the
Oh,
into this role.
opportunity, but
you're lucky. You're lucky that I guess you wouldn't be spending much time in the heat. I know they moved a bunch of their game times because it's about to be 109 degrees soon. But have fun. Have fun. The
You know, I'm,
talking stick field is pretty awesome.
I'm really excited because this is, it's a big deal. It means they're asking me to do something. Take it, they're taking me seriously. They want me to ask questions. I got to be completely honest. I think I did it at WC the other day. I can't name more than 3 Diamondbacks players.
Well, the most important name you need to know is Torey Lovullo. That's really the one guy you have to know.
I don't know who that is.
He is the manager of the team.
We're so screwed.
Oh.
We're so screwed.
Dog. Oh my God.
I'm gonna get fired.
Listen,
oh my God.
I don't follow baseball like that. I've been following the WBC, but I think I struggle to tune into the MLB because it's just such a long season. There's so many games. It's hard for me to really lock into a 162 game season and like the players and the managers, all that.
I'm gonna be asking the dumbest questions, man. They're gonna be like, who brought this guy?
Oh, over under three times Casey goes to press conferences it takes for him to get his credential revoked.
He says, "What were you thinking when you hit the home run?"
Yeah, man. Hey, and Reese was there. Reese was who also works at PHNX, but is also in WCS, and he was like, or no, was it Jason or someone was like, what's OBPS? And I was like, on base percentage. And they're like, you're good, bro. You know ball. So I don't know. We'll be fine. I'll be like the people person. I'll be like the funny question. they lose a game. I'm like what's like a dumb question the dumb questions they ask at the Super Bowl. You know what I mean? Like on Radio Row.
Oh, were you singing along to the 7th inning stretch?
I don't know. I'm gonna be screwed. But I had a great time.
What's your favorite uniform?
But I had such a great time going over the bracket. I'm excited for March Madness. I'm going to be taking care of my girlfriend's cat and staying at her place Wednesday through Sunday because she's going out to the wonderful city of Houston for a flight conference. Yeah, the wonderful city of Houston. I think she's watching right now with her friends. So any recommendations for Houston, Mr. Keenan? You're from there.
If you get the chance, you absolutely have to go to Papacitos or Lupe's. It is the best Tex-Mex you will ever eat. That's my one recommendation.
Okay.
Good to know.
There you go. And so I'll be sitting back on her bed with her cat, just watching March Madness. It's gonna be such a joy. I'm seriously looking forward to it so badly. But thank you guys so much for tuning in tonight. Longer show. Really excited for March Madness. We'll have more content coming out on some seed lines. I'll be making those videos later, and I'm sure we'll have reactions next week to